This program is called Focus, and today we're focusing on PCWA. With me, Andy Fecko. He's the general manager. I read that you are working on some projects that are helping to manage the forest. And since we're sitting here in two of the worst fire days we've had in a long time, in Placer County and over in El Dorado County, what is the role you're taking on now in forest management?
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Yeah, it's been horrible. From the river fire in Colfax, which directly affected our customers because we serve Colfax water, to now the fire down in El Dorado County, which is sending all this smoke into Placer. It's just a reminder of the condition that our forests are in, which is not good. So after the King Fire in 2014, which directly burned PCWA's water supply watershed in the Rubicon River, it burned a lot of the Rubicon River watershed, and we had to suffer the consequences of that, which consequences, for folks that don't know, are burned trees that come into our reservoir and are safety hazard for dams. And then the aftermath, when you get the next wet year, of all the silt coming in and filling in your reservoirs, our reservoirs, the people's reservoirs, which we then have to go and dredge to clean out because they don't store as much water, right? That's a direct cost that we suffer. Plus the long-term impacts to water quality of having this ash and silt run into your water system, which we then have to try to treat and deliver to households. All of those factors, our board of directors, who, by the way, is a 5-member board, publicly elected board of directors, same districts as the county board of supervisors, so people that are listening to this show, they may get to vote for one of those board of directors. They decided that we were not going to have a catastrophic wildfire in our watershed again if we could help it. And so we took on two major initiatives. The first is in the watersheds of our major reservoirs, French Meadows and Hellhole. Actually, French Meadows is the one we're starting on. We decided we were going to take on a forest management project. We were going to spend money to try to thin the forest to a level that could sustain a wildfire without it becoming catastrophic. That's a key difference. The thing we're seeing in El Dorado County this week is a catastrophic wildfire. It's burning very hot, very fast, and when that fire is done, that watershed will be impacted for decades. Contrast that to fires that burn cooler in the understory that don't get into the crowns of the trees. A forest can survive that and thrive afterward. That's the kind of landscape that we're trying to promulgate in the French Meadows watershed. So we've taken on, along with our partners at the County of Placer, who have been invaluable, the Nature Conservancy, and the U.S. Forest Service, along with some university help, have taken on 23,000 acres in the French Meadows watershed above that reservoir to thin it to a point where it can survive a catastrophic wildfire and come back. And that's the key thing, is come back. And so we're about halfway through that project right now. We've got another 3 to 4 years of that to go. And when we're done, we hope that what we're seeing in El Dorado County will not occur in the people's watershed there above the French Meadows project.
Now, the management of the forest has been a long and a hot subject for the last 30 years in the state. And we know of only one other management attempt, which is up around the Tahoe Basin. That was initiated somewhat politically by our local representative, Tom McClintock, and others. And so there's only two of you now that sounds like you're actually managing the forest. The other thing that I noted is that 50% of the forests in the state of California are actually owned by the federal government. So if you're successful, do you think maybe the federal government may figure out a way to use you and others to do this kind of management? Because obviously it's a political football right now.
Yeah, it's been tough. So you said 30 years, and I think that's right. So I tell the story this way, Barry. We were in an era where we were probably logging too much, too intensely, with too many impacts. And then we went into the last 30 years of not doing anything, or doing very, very little. What I think PCWA is trying to do, what the Tahoe Basin is trying to do with, I'll say, Yuba Water Agency and the North Yuba Basin is now starting to do, is to try to find a middle ground. We can't do too much and we can't do not enough. We have to try to find this middle ground. And I think the Tahoe National Forest has just been really, really excellent And by the way, our regional forester who ran California is now the Forest Service chief in Washington, D.C., and he talks about the French Meadows Project as a model, as a goal for the rest of the state. And what he means by that is it can't just be the Forest Service, because they just do not have the funding to do this kind of work everywhere. So they've got to find partners, and that partnership model is really what the French Meadows story with the county and PCWA and the Nature Conservancy is all about. And what they want to do is spread that to other watersheds, right? Above Shasta is a big watershed. Lake Shasta, biggest storage reservoir in the state. It needs this kind of work. Above Lake Oroville, you're seeing the fires above Oroville. We had whole communities above Lake Oroville destroyed, and now the Dixie Fire is going to become the largest wildfire in the state. That's above Lake Oroville. All of our watersheds need this kind of work, and what it's going to take is partnership. Water agencies can be a small cog in that wheel. For instance, for us, the water agency and the county together have spent about $1 million to do this work. We've been able to leverage that to other funding sources to get about $12 million in. So you think about that's a great ratio. Less than 10% is coming from the local community, but we're able to build a project that does that 12 times over. And so we think that's a great success story. I think the Forest Service wants to duplicate that in other watersheds.
Now, can you sell this lumber, and can you put that money back into the project?
That's exactly what we do. So we're doing this thing called ecological forest thinning, which is that in between. It's not clear cutting, and it's not doing nothing. It's selecting the right trees out of every acre of land to get the density of the fuel down. And when we take those trees out, some of them go to biomass utilization. Down here in Lincoln, we have 2 biomass plants. We send the biomass down there. Some of them go for saw logs, right? And some of those trees are just too small, and we grind them up and reincorporate them into the soil on site. A combination of all those things helps to pay for the project, right, and offset our costs.
Sounds like a good plan and maybe a great model. So
Yes.
We'll wait and see where that goes.
And we have more projects coming. We're going to do more projects like that. Can I talk to you about the other community protection project that the county and I are involved in? County and PCWA are involved in. City of Auburn's a great example. Town of Forest Hill is a great example. We provide a grant program to the resource conservation districts, the fire safe councils, and the fire departments, about $250,000 a year, where they go out and find private landowners who are willing to treat their land for fire safety. And they find matching funds from the federal and state governments, these fire safe councils. Luana Dowling, great person up in Forest Hill who does this work. And we provide some grant funding separate and apart from the watershed work to protect communities. Auburn has benefited from it. Forest Hill has benefited from it. A bunch of stuff in between. Iowa Hill, Michigan Bluff. These are all little communities that we're able to put money on the ground, hire local contractors to clear private property. We think it's been a great success.
Andy, thank you. The focus here at KAHI this week has been on PCWA, Placer County Water Agency.